Let's do it. Well, thanks again, guys, for showing up on a Friday. Friday, we still got 25 here, so that's a good sign. We're excited about this. I know today with the athletes was really fun. Showing up in the unis. I know Jake's got full uni belt on and everything, which is cool. He's got the pinstripes on. Swaggy gear over there at the BAM fam. I'm a little jealous of the baby blues. So
it's
you
a good
throw it
look.
back, man. You take too good care of your squad over there, man. You got to give that to the West Coast over here, man. Come on. But no, it's just exciting to see people showing up and being enthusiastic about it and continually learning. Sean, like you mentioned, using a quote from somebody else in here with your sales team, like how applicable it is to everything we do. And that's what this is all about, especially week one, kind of laying the foundation. A lot of this is just life skills and just things that we can take into our personal lives. And that's kind of what we're going to get into today as we close out week one. Finish this up before we get into some of the more physical skill aspects of the game. But this is honestly my favorite week of anything. I love talking leadership. I love talking mental game. I love talking how to make our encourage our mindsets, encourage our teammates, encourage culture, encourage athletes, encourage coaches, etc. It fires me up. It absolutely fires me up. So this has been a good week. And today we're talking about the commitment aspect and committing versus contributing. And I'll let Jake explain that here in a minute. But I'm just, for me, my favorite part about life is the commitment phase. 2.5 years ago when I was broken, had no purpose, I was floundering in professional baseball, had no clue what I wanted to do, thought I lost everything, like just had no mental game. My anxiety and depression was at an all-time high. It took commitment to dig myself out of the hole. One, it took like the blessings of God and like him saving my life, having a mentor encouraged me to a Bible study, which we did again today. And Daniel, you're in here as well. And it's a coach's Bible study, which is incredible, just holding each other accountable and working with each other. But two, it started with a commitment, and it started with, hey, what am I grateful for every single day? Like, what am I grateful for when I get out of bed? Originally, it was wake up, check the phone, look at every social media platform, allow the world to dictate who I say I am and who I am as a person. And then it went to, hey, I'm going to take away some time here or put some time away for myself to just have some peace and have some tranquility, because a lot of us have families, a lot of us have our own kids in here, and we're also coaching our own kids, and it can get very hectic and we can lose that time for ourselves. But the most important thing is, how do we commit to ourselves to encourage and inspire those around us? So I think that's a big key, just to think about, ponder that thought as we get in today. It's not a big deal, but just think about that. Hey, how can I commit to myself every single day? Because when I commit to myself, it's a very selfless action, because I'm putting myself in the best position to help my teammates, to help my other coaches, the athletes that I'm in charge of, my sales team, et cetera. I think that's a big key to think about. So commitment. I think committing in a team setting is buying into whatever mission we have. We talked about the mission statement earlier in the week, talked about having a common goal, a common theme, common culture for our team that we're trying to set. And it all starts at the top with the buy-in from the coach. So if we're bought in, the athletes are usually going to buy in. But if we're not totally bought into our mission, to our goals as a team, where we want to go, the direction we're taking the program, then our athletes probably aren't going to buy in either. So I think they really recognize that. Seeing it from an athlete standpoint is, if I see my coach isn't bought in, if he's not showing up on time, if he's coming in late, and things happen, we get it. Like, we got jobs, we got other things that we have to do, priorities. But if we're consistently showing up late, or consistently showing up kind of tired or hungover, or I'm just not fully enthusiastic with what we're doing with the athletes, they feel that energy. They see that in us, and that directly translates into them. And then they're like, oh my gosh, coach doesn't care about me, or I wish coach did this or that. Rather than, if they see you fully bought in, no matter how good the talent, I think that you have a lot of things that you can work with, and you can bring the team together, which is going to gel more, and we'll probably experience more success. I know, just seeing some of the best teams in the nation, whether it's in college, high school, professional ball, et cetera, it's the teams that come together the best. It's never the most talented. You can see teams in pro ball, especially, where there's 3 or 4 first rounders on the same roster, high A, double A, disgusting, like the best of the best. But if the pitcher doesn't get along with the catcher, they're not on the same page. If my infielders can't communicate because 3 of them are Dominican and I'm the only American first baseman, which this is a true story, and I don't know how to communicate with my infielders and they don't care about communicating with me, we're not going to win. So we didn't win. That was just an eye-opener. It's like, how do I trust each other? How do we build that trust within an organization? Trust has been thrown around a lot, but I think it's the most important thing when building a culture, especially that commitment piece of buying into the all in. Like, how do we get all in for that one goal? From the top down, I think some things that we can do every day is create a routine. We'll get into the routine aspect and just a simple routine for our athletes. We talked with the athletes about an individual routine for them and doing something that they can do every day that's specific to them. Maybe my routine is different than Jake's, which is different than Sean's, but something specific for me to set me up for success. Maybe Austin needs more inside tee and some high tee work. I'm working on my hands, but maybe Joe needs more hip work and thinking about stepping back drill, or maybe spread out and just hit him with the back hip type of drill. There's different things that work for different athletes, and being able to incorporate that as a coach, even though it's really hard to do, I think that empowers them to say, hey, empower them to make their own routine. Say, hey, show me your routine. We've got a really cool, like a mindset mastery program coming out where it's going to be like 8 weeks that a coach can implement into a program with their athletes. So you don't have to pay for somebody to come out there and work with you. You can implement it yourself. And one of the things is, hey, empowering you to create your own routine, asking the athletes, hey, what's your routine? Like, what gets you ready? Whether it's a morning routine, maybe it's a pre-game routine, maybe it's a pre-practice routine or a pre-BP routine. What are my routines and what gets me ready for the game? What sets me up for success? Is it my visualization? Is it my tee work? Is it my pitching program and long toss? What gets me prepared mentally and physically to be the best version of myself? Jeannie, Aaron Nielsen, he's one of my favorite people in the world. And Ronnie, you know him too, but he's who inspired us to come together with the Dugout Coalition. And what he used to talk about my freshman summer in college was he'd always say strong mind plus strong body equals strong mother effer. And I'm like, wow, that's powerful, because you got a strong mind, you work on your body, you're strong physically, and now you're in the best, most powerful state that you could possibly be in when you approach the field. So if I think about it like that, hey, strong mind plus strong body equals strong MFer, like I am ready to go. I'm locked in. I'm putting myself in the best position. So if you think about your routine, it's how can I create a routine that serves my mind, serves my body, and gets me in the best physical position and mental position possible to experience success. Will I do it consistently? Probably not. But how can I commit to that every single day to set me up for success? And Jake, I want you to get into the contribute versus commitment, because you said something really good in the athletes one that I think is totally applies to what we're doing as coaches with our programs.
Yeah, and this is actually, I didn't go fully in depth with the athletes, but this is something I did my first year at Perry. So, when I got there, obviously when you come in, there's a lot of seniors who have been under a different regime or a different coaching style before, and they were kind of set into a routine of, whatever they had to do, they would do, but they weren't going to really commit to each other. They weren't going to go above and beyond in any type of way, because that was never really an expectation for them before. So what I did in like my first 3 weeks there was totally rock their world and have to have 3 or 4 parent conversations with a new team at a new high school. So my AD probably hated me early on, but I put up in the locker room, when I got that job, I started asking around about these players. I didn't know them. So I was asking some of the teachers and some of the previous coaches, just trying to get a background. And I took all the negative things that I heard about these players and I hung them up in the locker room. So it said, hey, this kid can't focus enough to be good. This kid's a practice All-American but can't play in games. And they were pissed, right? They didn't like that. And we sat down and we talked through where the culture was and where we were going. And we told them this story. There was this kid, and he was trying to figure out the difference between contribution and commitment. So him and his dad went to breakfast, and they sat down, and the kid was saying, they seem like it's very similar. I can't really understand. So they ordered their food, and food comes back, and the kid ordered bacon and eggs. And the dad said, look, the answer's on your plate. And the kid was really confused. Like, what do you mean the answer's on my plate? The dad said, when you look at your plate, you have a chicken who contributed to that breakfast, but you have a pig who is committed. Right? Because when we contribute to something, there's not really any fear. There's not really any failure. There's nothing that we're putting in past a point to where we could potentially be embarrassed or hurt when we contribute. We're just kind of helping out, but we're not fully invested and all in. But when you commit to something, you have that opportunity to be very successful, but you're also taking the risk and the chance that there can be failure that comes with that, and defeat and fear and anxiety and pressure and all of those negative emotions that you stay away from when you contribute. But the beauty of it is the growth that can come from it and the amount of investment that can come from you and other people when you're truly committed and all in for a common good. So we told that story, and then we went throughout the week as players continue to find ways to show their commitment to the team. They got to rip up whatever statement was about them. We threw them in a trash can and we burned that whole trash can, and then went on the next week to make it to a county championship. So it worked. They thought I was crazy. I probably am a little bit, but sometimes it takes outside the box ideas to do in order to get them to understand and buy in. So I think that's a huge thing, is just really looking at your players and trying to outline to them that difference, because some of them are contributing and they truly feel like they're committed because they've never been asked in any way in their life to truly commit to something before. So they just don't know what that looks like. And our job as coaches is to open their eyes and help them understand what that looks like and give them ways and opportunities to show that, to truly have that as a skill and something in their toolbox for the rest of their life.
Yeah, that's a really good point about, like, as coaches, we have the opportunity to empower them to commit to something and teach them the differences. I mean, are you just contributing? Are you dabbling in with the foot in the water? Are you fully bought in, going head first, just ripping the shirt off and running in the lake? Like, how are we going to commit to the team goals that we have set up? And maybe committing for a certain athlete means I'm going to be the best bench guy in the world. Like, and that's a really hard thing to do, because even talking with a college coach the other day, he's like, look, what are the common things that I experience when the season hits? Like, and he was talking leadership, like how he empowers his team. They're a really good team in North Carolina. And I'm like, what do you guys do? Like, what are you doing? Why are you guys so successful for the last 6 years since you've been there? He said, look, the common things I get is playing time. We're all going to get experience with playing time. We have 10, 15, 25. Some of us have like 80 people in our program. Somebody's going to complain about playing time and how much I get to be on the field. It's inevitable. But how can I encourage that athlete to commit to their daily process and not make them, but help them understand that if you commit to something every single day, maybe your playing time, one, will go up. Two, maybe you can be the best athlete, the best teammate possible on the bench to encourage those. So when something does pop up to where now your name's called on and we need you to go into shortstop because our shortstop got hurt, or we need you to throw an inning because we have nobody else in the pen, you're ready to go and you're not dabbling in. There's a story just for our team. I was at the University of Nevada, and it was our senior year, my senior year, and we won 42 games. We won like 42-15, something crazy. Kind of got screwed on a regional. That's a whole nother deal. If you guys want to sit down on that, I'll be hosting it tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I'll go on a rant for hours, but we had an amazing team. 8 out of 9 guys were hitting over 300, 10 draft picks. There's like 5 other freshmen who got to. Great team, right? Well, we had a pitcher who he got drafted that year. He's really good pitcher, but he was a contributor. He wasn't a committer. And he was our closer. He's our closer, like the guy we were supposed to depend on. And the night before, we're playing San Jose State. We won the first 2 games. We killed them 22-1 and like 18-2, like smacked them around. And the third day comes and we're up 5-3 in a nail biter on a Sunday. And for those of you who know college baseball pretty well, it's very important to win those Sunday games and to get a sweep at home when you're playing a team that wasn't very good at the time. And he comes in, I think it's 5-3. And the night before he pitched, he got to pitch an inning. So he thinks in his mind, I'm not pitching at all. So he goes out and gets housed. And he's out till 6 a.m. and he shows up with shades on and his hoodie on. And he's like hiding in the back, sleeping in the bullpen. Well, talk about a committer. If he was committed to the team, if he was committed to our goals where we wanted to go, and that was a College World Series because we knew we had the talent to win, he wouldn't have showed up like that. Because the other 24 athletes, we all showed up ready to go, ready to win a ball game. But for him, what do you know? What happens when that contributor, he's not fully bought in? Well, guess what? His name's called in the the top of the ninth with the bases juiced and nobody out. And we're calling on our closer to come close a game for us. And what do you think happens? He comes in and lets the doors come off the freaking roof and gives up like 4 or 5 runs. And we end up losing to San Jose State, which wasn't a very good team. And hey, maybe that win prevented us from going to going to a regional. And maybe it didn't, but honestly, it probably did, dropping a game at home. But that just goes to show that when you have an athlete who's not fully bought into the cause, and you're going to have some on your teams, it's inevitable, it's going to happen. Like, how can we inspire that athlete to commit to the team goals? And maybe it starts with accountability from our leadership council on our team. Like, maybe we have some guys on our team that we can speak to and say, hey, make sure this he's good. He's going to be there showing up ready to go. Or maybe this guy's like struggling in school. Make sure he gets in study hall, because if he doesn't get his grades taken care of, then he's not going to be eligible at our high school, and now he can't play. So just thinking of little creative ways to commit. But that's just a story of how a contributor can totally derail even a season in a way just by a selfish action. So I'm just encouraging your athletes to be selfless and really empowering them to commit to the overall mission for the team. Ronnie, what do you got for me?
Yeah, when we commit and we actually buy in and I think that's the biggest thing is making sure we have all our bases covered. You know, players are going to know when you don't know. You know, when they ask you something or they're looking for help or they want to get better, they're going to know if you don't know how to help them. They're going to know if you don't have that system in place, and they're going to understand, you know, hey, it kind of looks like this guy really doesn't know what to do to help me specifically. So I think we have to individualize a lot of things for teams. It's easy for me because I do a lot of individualized type training, but for the teams it's tougher because you got 12 guys and you have a group of kids who are all learning at a different pace. We still have to make sure that we accommodate each guy, and that's the commitment to it. And when you go home at night, like I know at me as a coach, I'll go home at night sometimes like, man, I know I didn't connect with that kid like I wanted to today. I need to figure out a better way to do that. And I think as coaches, that's where the commitment comes in. You know, if you have a kid who might be the, you know, bottom half of the team, we can't just let them fall behind. That needs to be a big focus for us to help that guy get better and feel a part of the team, because ultimately at the end of the day, we're not, like we said before, we're not just making baseball players. These are people. And if that person feels left out of this game, they might go into something else and feel left out of that too. And now we're not really helping that person become a better human being, right? I think ultimately our commitment needs to be on the whole team as a whole, and we can't really look at skills for that. And I think that's where the leadership comes in. I think if we're just looking strictly at skills, then we're not actually getting our mission across. So I take it like business, right? As a business, you got to have a mission statement. You got to have core values. You got to have goals. And I think that once our team understands that, and all of those, the mission statement and the core values and the goals are not revolving around strictly just baseball, that's when you connect. And that's when you get buy-in. And I think that's commitment, right? Because as coaches, I know sometimes we've had this conversation a lot, is we get caught up in the three hitter. We get caught up in the dude that's dropping bombs and that's throwing 75 miles an hour at 11 years old. Like, we get caught up in that, right? But we have to get caught up in what the bigger goal is and the bigger mission is, and it is to bring the camaraderie of the team together. And that's actually how you win games, is when you have, and Jake has said this, he's had multiple teams that were not that talented that won a lot of games because they were a team. And once we focus on that goal and commit to that, we get better value and more out of our team than we ever thought we could. And I remember that with our college team. I mean, a lot of Canadians, a lot of guys who were under-recruited, and those were the guys that won the championship for our program, because they had a drive in them, and we had a mission, and we stayed on that whether we liked it or not, and that's what brought us all together to win. And I think ultimately if we do that, and it doesn't really matter what talent you have, you're going to be successful with whoever you have on your team because your value is bigger than skill, right?
Yeah, that's huge. I like that value bigger than the skill, and just knowing, hey, it's the most consistent teams that win. We know that. It's the most consistent athletes that get to the top. It's not the most talented ever. And
Right.
never, ever, ever. Like, you're going to have the alphas, but there's going to be a lot of those guys and girls in the middle that get to the highest level in the WNBA and the NBA and the NFL. But it's the most consistent. How do I commit to a process on a daily basis? So now I kind of want to get into the fact of, we understand what it means, obviously, to commit and contribute, and the differences and how it can impact a team and how it can help athletes play at their best level. But how can we encourage and inspire them to commit to themselves when maybe our voices get drowned out sometimes? Because we all know sometimes little Johnny's out in cuckoo land looking out in left field at the other team's huddle when we're out here trying to talk to them and give them a positive, empowering message. So how do we get them to buy in? Jake, I really want to hear what you have to say, because you're doing it from the travel side, you're doing it from the high school side, and maybe one day you get the opportunity to coach in college. Who knows, like where life takes us. But I think you do a really good job of it, not only from the coaching standpoint, but from the athlete standpoint. For me, I think it's all about just giving them actionable tools that they can do every day. And maybe it's an individual routine in the morning. Hey, commit to a cold shower, or gratitude, or something positive, or write out your feelings in the morning if you're struggling with how you feel, or hey, go take extra swings every day, or do some workouts. Like during this time, do an exercise every day, go on a walk, play with your dog, hit off the tee, whatever tools you do have, whatever you have access to, go do it. Like, find something, because those daily commitments are going to build self-confidence, which that self-confidence in turn results in better players, better athletes, better humans in society. So how do we get athletes to buy into the commitment, one, and two, what is the importance of building that self-confidence for our athletes?
Yeah, no, those are great questions. I think, as weird as it is for me to to physically say it. I think, the coaches in here that know me could hopefully attest to this, but I think my greatest asset as a coach is being me, just being myself, and allowing them to see that I do those things every day, allowing them to see that I screw up, and just being honest with players. A lot of times as adults, we feel like we have to hide our own lives from them. And that's not a place that I ever want to be. I want my players to know me. So I think the first step is commit to yourself. And, players can see who you are, and like what you model goes a long way. So I want my players to see that, like, I want them to see how I treat my wife. I want them to see how I treat my kids. I want them to see that vulnerability, to know, like, this isn't just a baseball thing. Like, I'm going to commit to myself and the relationships that I have in everything, so that way they can model those behaviors too. And, one thing I really struggled with for a long time is understanding that, you want to be a selfless leader, but you have to be committed to yourself first, right? If you're on a plane and that thing's going down, they tell you every time, put your own oxygen mask on first. And I struggle with that because I want to lead other people and I want to do that. But what I've found is when I do that and I'm solely focused on everybody else, I reach a point of exhaustion and depression where, like, I just can't keep going because I have nothing left in my tank to give. So I think step one is making sure that you're finding ways as a coach in your everyday life to fill your cup. Who's in your circle? Who are you surrounded by that's going to give you that energy to then pour out into other people? Because if you don't have any energy, you're not going to be a great leader when your players need that too. So for me, that's my family. It's different for everybody, but I think surrounding yourself with that and not feeling selfish for taking time for you, valuing yourself, doing those things and taking care of you first to prepare yourself to lead others. And then the next step is, giving them the application of how to do that. Commit to yourself and then commit to others and do it consistently. They should know who you're going to be every day you show up. They should know the general routine of what you're going to expect and what that looks like. And they should know that there's going to be discipline for actions that don't meet your standards, right? All parents discipline their kids, and it's not to be a jerk. It's because we want them to grow up to be positive people. So we shouldn't feel bad disciplining our team as long as there's a positive outcome that you're working towards. I think that's the difference between discipline and punishment. Punishment is, I'm going to have you do this for something that you did, but there's no outcome that we're really searching for. It's just, you did this, so now I'm responding. Whereas discipline, you're seeking a specific outcome from that. So as long as we keep that mindset and we can actually like verbally state that and let them know the purpose, then they take that much different. I think the last thing as a coach, when it comes to this stuff is, I have it written down in my notes of just prepare the fields for rain. This is one of my favorite stories. And it's a biblical parable, but it talks about, there's these two farmers and they're going through a drought. And both of them pray for rain, but only one of them goes out and digs their fields and prepares it for rain, right? Like, we can hope, we can want good things to happen, but if we're not putting in the work and we're not preparing the team to be successful or preparing that field for rain, then when it actually comes, we're not going to be in a place to actually, gain or grow from that. So that's a big thing is, we're going to tell our team, hey, we're going to be successful and here's how, but prepare them every day for that. Practice in a way that it makes it game-like. Give them those verbal cues, those things that you're going to give in a game so that they can get comfortable with all of that. So when the opportunity's there, they've been there before. They've done it before. It might have been practice, but it's not the first time that they're experiencing something. And I think the outcomes that you get from that are really, really positive when they feel like they've already been prepared.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love the analogies. I could listen to analogies all day. The Bible has the greatest analogies. I mean, the stories are in there, dude. It's unbelievable. But talk about preparing the fields for rain, like just getting them ready, right? Like, let's get them ready. And I like that. I like how you said that, plus the discipline versus punishment, because that's a key thing. A lot of times it's easy for us to just punish somebody or run to the 3:30 sign and back. Maybe you're tired of seeing this dude swing. Maybe you're just like, quit talking in the group, like you need to go. Or maybe you just haven't paid any attention and this person just keeps failing at whatever it is. I know watching other programs, like some people are making them run a lot. Some coaches don't make anybody run and there's no punishment or no discipline. But I think discipline is the key word there. Is let's be a disciplined team. Let's do everything right. Let's run hard. Let's carry ourselves the right way. Let's be up there with our chest back, or our chest up and our shoulders back, and not slumped over. Let's show up in a presentable deal. Like when you see a team roll in with unis on, hat forward, like buttoned up, belt on, even pants up, because I think pants up looks awesome. I love it. Big fan. If you got stirrups, you're already +1 in my book. But showing up like you're ready to win a game. Like when you see the Army, like the Army doesn't look like they're just rolling out of bed. You even notice some of these Zoom calls. Like you do a Zoom call with a college team, and some of them are attentive. Some of them are laid back with a hoodie on. Some of them are kind of checked out. With the kids, like most of them are actually pretty attentive for the most part, which is kind of crazy. But there's some, like yesterday, that one was like laying down, and we mentioned the body language, and all of a sudden he just gets back up. But then you see like the pro ones that are going around, and they're groomed. They're up in the box, like they're actually like looking at the screen. They're up here, like you see the Nationals. There's a couple other ones, like some of the basketball athletes, and it's just a different look, right? How do you present yourself on a team? And that's, I think, discipline is the big thing. Ronnie, go ahead and take it away, man.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing as coaches right now to kind of stay up on our kids. And I know, at least for me, I'm still doing some Zoom calls with players that are hitting, at their houses and things like that. But I think the biggest thing for us is we still need to be consistent in how we're coaching our kids right now. Zoom is obviously a great platform to be able to do that. But we have to make sure that we're prepared for when the season does come. We can't expect a kid who hasn't thrown a baseball in a month and a half to come out and throw 80 pitches for us. And I think as coaches, if we really have this all-in type mentality, which we should have, then we really need to be reaching out to our players. Hey, are you throwing? What are you doing? Have you been hitting? Are you running? If it's an older team that has kids that have been lifting and working out, are they still doing things like that and working out at their house to get themselves prepared to get outside? And I know this is going to happen, and it's going to happen with a lot of teams, is kids aren't going to be prepared. Tournaments are going to come up, and we're going to run out of pitching. And we're going to run out of guys who are ready. And so I actually think that responsibility is on us as coaches. I mean, we need to do a better job of reaching out. Hey, are you guys still throwing? Yeah, I know it's snowing in New York. I get it. Get outside. Doesn't matter. Right? Go throw a baseball and figure it out. Guys in Arizona, are they still getting out to a field? Are they still going and hitting outside, even though we can't play games right now? And I think that's ultimately what's going to help us take this kind of curve and run with it, is if we're really all in and we're really committed. And when I looked at the schedule for today, so one thing I wanted to bring up was, are we still doing a good job when we can't practice with our team? Are we still doing a good job of motivating them and keeping them engaged into getting ready for the season that we're going to have? I've been seeing a lot of negativity from kids and parents and coaches about, we're not going to play. Okay, well, this is part of the process right now. This is what it is for us. But we still have a group of 10 to 15 guys that we are in charge of, that we have to prepare for when we do play a game. And I think if we're all in, we're going to do a better job with that. And so for me, I'm reaching out to a lot more kids. I'm doing a better job with that. But as coaches, I challenge you guys to still stay on top of your team and make sure that you're still talking to them and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to get better. Because I think ultimately that's what's going to help us get ready for the season again.
Yep, you make a good point, Ronnie, of staying on top of them and still motivating them, and just inspiring them. Hey, let's get outside, let's do something. Let's find a way to get better. Go make your bed. Go, I don't know, post something cool on Instagram or on your social media if that's what pumps you up. Like, wear a uniform to the Athletes Friday full uni deal. Like, do something that's going to better you. Go check this out on YouTube after, which, by the way, Jesse messaged me, are these going to be on YouTube or anywhere? Can I watch the recordings? They'll all be on YouTube. So every single one of these will be up there, hopefully by the end of the weekend of week 1. You can always go back and check them if you missed something. If there's something that you want to double check on or send to a coach that that you think you could use it in your program, you can always go back on there and check those out. But you talk about just using this time wisely, right? Using this time wisely to not let our culture slip. I think it's an easy time for us all to let our own individual habits slip. And for me, we mentioned it earlier, but even today, waking up, like getting after in the morning and then laying down for a 30-minute nap and then end up snoozing for 2 hours and just being a rattle box. But we mentioned something about when you do slip up and when you maybe don't fully commit or you turn back or go away from some of the commitments that you've made, whether it's with your program, maybe it's individually or with your athletes or seeing them do it, not letting it beat you up and take you down. We're all going to fall short. We're all going to slip up at some point. We're all going to do something that we're not proud of, and we're all going to make a mistake. We're going to say the wrong thing. We're going to send a guy home when he shouldn't have been going home. He should have stayed at third. We're going to make mistakes on the field, especially. it's just owning those mistakes. And Jake, you mentioned the vulnerability piece, like being able to connect with people. The best people in the world, the best communicators are so vulnerable. They just say it how it is. Hey, this is what's happened to me. Like I'm a normal everyday person. I'm not this Greek god and Zeus. Like I am a normal everyday person. When people come in and work with our college program, I always would just study them and see who's like the best communicators, and the ones that really got to us as athletes, the ones that we stuck with and listened to, and their message continued with us for the rest of the year, communicated with us, and they brought themselves down to our level. There was a kid I work with individually who said, look, Austin, you got to, sometimes the trampoline effect, sometimes you got to go down and bounce back up to bring them up. And I'm like, whoa, what? You got to come down to bring everybody else back up. I'm like, you're 15 years old and you got that type of wisdom, dude. Whoever told you that, nuts to you. But for real, I'm like, this is incredible. Good for you. So as coaches, we have that massive opportunity to instill these values into our athletes and to instill just different commitments, different values, different habits to help our athletes get one step closer to where they want to go. And if we can do that on a daily basis, especially in a time like this, and even the parents, because we know that that message needs to be reciprocated from the parents down as well, because they're very important and play a vital role in the development of our athletes. That's a big thing too. So however we can do that, whether it's hosting a Zoom call once or twice a week, or maybe once every other week, just getting people together, allowing them to see their faces, sending them positive messages, sending them YouTube videos to do some work on, or some cool podcasts that you may have heard that say, hey, check this out. This was really good for pitching, or this was good for your mental game, or whatever it may be. Just encouraging them and inspiring them on a daily basis is going to be big during this time. Jake, what else do you have as far as like an all-in culture? Like, how do you fully get that buy-in when maybe sometimes it doesn't seem like things are going the right way? Maybe your boat's getting rocked a little bit, and you're having a tough time communicating your message to your athletes. They're not buying in. They're not fully sold. Maybe it's not on you, or maybe that's just the cream of the crop that you have that year. How do you like instill those values when maybe not everybody wants to buy in right away?
Yeah, I think one thing that helps is giving them the opportunity to understand that they don't control their circumstance. And that's life, but that's also, season and games and who you play and who you're facing, that kind of stuff. But they control what they do from their starting point. And there's a great video out there on YouTube called The Race of Life. And it's just this guy in a class that looks like almost a college setting. He's got his whole class lined up on the football field at the end zone. And he says, hey, for every statement that I read off that's false for you, go ahead and take a step forward. And he says, hey, my parents are divorced, so if your parents are together, you move forward. And he goes through about 20 or 25 negative statements. And you got people all over the field now, right? People that are still at the end zone because they weren't given any of those advantages. And you have people that are at the 50 because they've had everything handed to them so far. And he goes into talking about how, a lot of times, especially for these kids at their age, they have had zero control of the life that they've been handed. They didn't get to choose the parents that they have. They didn't get to choose their home or their life or their town or what their playing ability. That's just the hand that they've been dealt. But what they have full control over is their effort and their energy that they give from that starting point to the other end zone or the goal that they're reaching towards. And I've done it in class. I've done it with teams. I think it's a great representation of it because things happen during the season that you can't control. Last year, we go out for game one. Our team is like fired up, ready to go. And the other coach hands me the lineup, and it's a freshman, 15U last year, freshman pumping 94 committed to Vandy. Game one, let's go, boys. Here it is, right? It's like, all right, well, yep, it's what we call a get your mind right game, And our leadoff hitter comes up, takes the first pitch off the fence for a leadoff triple at 370 sign. It was awesome. And we competed. We lost, but they competed their tails off. And I think sometimes even in a loss, to look at a team and be like, look, you guys went into a really bad circumstance, a really bad situation that you didn't have control of, and you battled. Like there are times, I think it's a huge lesson, there are times in all of our lives where the odds are against us and we're just not in a good place. And like legitimately we have to battle, whether that's like for a relationship or for a job or like we've all gone through that. And the more that we can get them to see and buy into that type of culture, you're going to have them ready to run through a wall if you can get them to do that. So I think that's been a big one for sure, of just getting that buy-in of circumstance versus output, like what you don't control versus what you can, and getting the focus right in that area. And don't be afraid to check your players, like to ask the question. I know Jim's in here. We had his daughter is awesome. One of the coaches in here has got a few kids that played within our program, but his daughter's a freshman and should be a D1 talent. I mean, she's insane. And we went to a positional workout, and her attitude just day one just wasn't there. Not great. And I remember pulling her aside and just saying, like, you realize everybody else here is looking at you as their leader. Like, how you work is how they're going to work because you're the best one here. So you need to make a decision. Like, are you going to get better today, or are you going to bring everybody else down? And a lot of times, even if they're not focused on themselves getting better, as soon as they realize, like, my effort and my decisions actually impact everybody else around me, then they start to change that behavior, because they'll be fine being sad, but they don't want everybody else to fall into that trap too. So we're naturally interdependent people. And I think giving them the single statement that I give my players almost every single day is, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? If you show up lazy, how you're going to go through your life is going to be lazy. So we need to model that, and we need to expect that from them. Like, give your coach nugs before you leave. Make sure you communicate properly. Show up ready to go. Have the right mindset. Like, those are everyday type things that we can get across to them. And I think the mix between, one, teaching them these things, because most players don't have an opportunity to learn this stuff, and then two, modeling those, just brings everybody to a place of really being bought in.
That's really, really, really good stuff, Jake. And I'm going to pump some people up here in a minute, but I think what the overall theme is just showing them that you care.
Yeah.
Show our athletes that we care. Show them that we care. Like, our parents want to know that we care. My kids want to know I care. My athletes want to know I care. The coaches I work with want to know I care. Because you feel valued. You feel that value as a person. But Sean puts in there, our success is a byproduct of the choices we make, not the circumstances we face. Hashtag wisdom nugget of the day, fire. And then George follows up with some hashtag fuego in there. It wasn't even a bad situation, but a difficult one. The struggle is where the learning begins. I love that. The struggle is where the learning begins. If we can get it across to our athletes that when we go through these struggles, when we go through some tough experiences, when we drive over the hill to go play a tournament 3 hours away and we get knocked down and go 0 for 4 and we get crushed, that now we have some places and some starting points to learn and grow. Like, hey, what did we learn from this? Jake, you mentioned in like the post-game talk, you get the guy that rips the ball off of the wall against the Vandy commit, and you're not guaranteed to win that game. You're probably they're probably betting on you to lose no matter what when you get in there. But guess what? They battle, finding the good in the failures, like finding the little success nuggets that we can present to our athletes to just pump them up and keep them encouraged. Because you know as well as I do, we all do, whenever we lose and we struggle, the chemistry just can be so easily fixed and manipulated, and the mindset can be just totally dampened. And we could hate showing up to the field, and it's monotonous and it's tiring and we're bored and we hate it and we blame coach or we blame our teammates or we blame our playing time. But just knowing that we feel valued and finding the little things within the game that we did well, rather than pointing out every single thing that we did poorly, and learning from some of these instances, I think is a key to really think about. Ronnie, what do you got for me?
Yeah, so I want to go into I'm going to elaborate a little bit on the mission, because I know with Jake, talks a lot with each individual team about some teams are going to be 500, some teams are expected to win every game. I think that having your team kind of understand what the learning experiences are is really where we're going to get commitment, and really get them to understand, you know, we lost to a guy throwing 94 miles an hour, but here are the positives we can take out of this game. I know a lot of times we get caught up in wins and losses, but a lot of times we have to throw those out the window, because the kids that are coming to practice, a lot of times they're going to be looking up to us just as much, if not more, than they look up to their own parents. And I think so for you guys, I mean, that's what they're going to take away. A lot of times they're going to get in the car, and because this Vandy commit struck them out 3 times that game, they're going to get blown up when they get in the car. But if we can give them some positive reinforcement and give them something to take away from the game that can help them grow, I think that's where the impact is. You know what I mean? And I know commitment does have part to do with the parents for sure, but we all know that the conversation in the car is going to happen. You know, so I think going back on that Vandy commit point is we need to give positivity to these guys when they're not going to get it somewhere else, and they're going to look up to you, and that's when you're going to get them to buy in, right? That's my biggest point with that, is making sure that no matter what's happening, we know what conversations are going to happen. So we need to be bigger than that and know that they're looking up to us more than anybody else.
100%. They're always watching. They're always watching each one of us, even if it's in a supermarket and it's on a Saturday morning and they don't know that we're there and we don't know that they're there, and they see us in the aisle, they're watching. They're seeing how we handle ourselves, how we treat other people. Did I hold that door for somebody? You want to model excellence and you want to model a leader. And when you see that happen, leaders do the right things even when no one's watching. And there's so many things that we could be doing for our athletes, for our parents, for our coaches to just model success. And then hopefully, whether they get it or not at that point, you planted the seed, right? And then once you plant the seed, hopefully you can water that seed as we continue to grow. So I love the analogies. They fire me up. But let's get into the routines for this last 14, 15 minutes here of how do we implement this right away? I think encouraging an individualized routine is big. It's very big. So what that means is, hey, if you've got a process that works for you, find what works for you. Empowering them to say what works for you, and then I'm going to watch. And if I see something that I think that we can manipulate here or change up, then maybe I'll bring that up to you and we'll talk about that. We'll have a conversation about that. But I want to see first what you do and what prepares you, mind, body, spirit-wise, to get ready for a game, because it's going to be different for everybody. Maybe a few people have the same routines. We can go through that. And some of us don't have as much access to the facilities. So if there's like one cage, then maybe you have to do more of a specific bare bottom routine where, hey, we're going to get our flips in. We're going to do some T work and dry work and get going. But I think no matter where we're at, we can get creative with it and find ways to find an individualized routine for each athlete. So just encouraging them to find something that works for them. Whether that's your T drills, maybe it's your dry work as a pitcher. Some of the athletes that just pitched the day before, maybe it's going through a little post-game yoga, or the next day yoga type deal on the outfield with a couple other guys who aren't playing, working on mobility. Maybe that is just long toss, saying, hey guys, every Wednesday and Friday we're doing long toss because we need to get our arms, stretch them out. Just finding little ways to encourage them to find things that work for them. I think the worst thing we can do is lose the buy-in from our athletes. And it goes back to Ronnie with your mission statement. Like, what is our mission? Where do we want to go with our organization, with our team, with our program? Well, once we lose that buy-in, I think we lose the direction as well. So finding ways to empower them to create their own routine is very, very crucial, because I know for me, I was always like, I had my specific routine. I want to do this, this, and this. If somebody tried to get in my kitchen and messed it up, I felt off. I didn't feel as good. So I know some of our athletes are feeling the same way. And I think for us, we just evaluate. We watch that. We see, hey, let me take a step back, 3D perspective. Let me look at what they're doing. And if there's a place where I can come in and just say, hey, how about you try this? I'm going to try this drill. Maybe this will help you get prepared. Maybe try this visualization tool that'll help you get mentally prepared, locked in for the pitcher we're facing today. Let's try this out. Let's mix it in. So just encouraging them, one, to create their own routine and process. Two, when you're a coach and when we're watching them, hey, what are some things that we can implement in between here that can maybe add value to your routine? I don't want to change it all up, but these few things, I recommend that these might be helpful for you to increase your performance on the field. It's probably easier to do when they're struggling, because now they're looking and searching. They're like, gosh, coach, I don't know what to do. I need help. But even when they're having success, like, hey, find something that works for you. How are you going to get as prepared as possible for the game? Jake, I don't know if you want to add on to that at all.
Yeah, I think, there's a couple things that we do where we systemize a routine for all of our players and for the teams that we have. And there's still a lot of leeway for individual routine for players. But for a lot of these players, if you tell them or ask them what their individual routine is, they don't even know. Like, that's a completely foreign concept to them. So developing some ways to systemize that can at least open the door for them to start to see what a routine is and have examples of that. So a couple things that we do, and this works really well for out of states at the travel level. We do it at the high school level more, but every Saturday we always do a team meal, right? So now we know they're going to be up. They're going to be up early enough that we're awake for the game and we're prepared. So we do a team meal, right? But if you guys are a travel team and you're at an out-of-state tournament, most of you are staying in the same hotel. Why not say, hey, team breakfast at this time? Okay, we're going to sit as a team. We're going to eat as a team. Gets their mind right to start to understand it's a game day, right? Second one is just quiet time before a game. Our bus rides, last 10 minutes before we get there, it's quiet. All right, we can have fun. We can joke around, but 10 minutes before we get there, I want you to sit and I want you to visualize whatever you're trying to do that day. Okay, next one, our pregame. Okay, when we do pregame, this is a big issue in travel ball, because sometimes you show up to the field for pregame and you get them there an hour early, hour and a half early, whatever it is, and there's nowhere for you to warm up, or you have like just a small area or one tunnel or a cage and that's it. So finding ways to have a pregame routine that works in a large space or works in a small space is key. So we have our infielders throw first. right? Our outfielders are hitting, but they know when I'm in the cage, my first round, it's 2 bunts, 2 choke stroke, 5 regular swings, just getting loose. And then I go 3 hitters count, 3 2-strike count. While he's doing that, our on deck person is timing and getting their rhythm, just tracking pitch timing, getting that stride and their load down. Person in the hole is sitting, eyes closed, visualizing. And they're visualizing hitters count that first round through. Second round through, they visualize 2-strike count. All right, so then we switch. Then outfield, infield switches. We go through Aussies. We do some of those different things for them. But they know their pregame routine. So if we as coaches can't be there, like we're talking to other coaches, we're getting ready for the game, making lineup, the more that they know it and they've been run through it, the easier it is for them to do, which is one thing that I think not a lot of coaches do, but you need to take a practice or two leading up to your games to actually practice your pregame routine. Like use that as the first hour of your practice. Here's how we're going to get ready for games. Here's how we're going to prepare. Here's what your expectation is and where your focus is. This kid's going to be the leader of our infield group. Make sure everybody's focused. This kid's going to be the leader of our outfield group. Okay, empower them to be the leaders, but give them that type of routine. We go as far as routines for like in-game. So all of our hitters know when they get to 2 strikes, their requirement is, okay, I just went down 1-2. Their requirement is step out of the box, eyes go to dugout, and I visually pound my chest before I step back into the box because it does 2 things, right? One, I've just given myself a reminder. It's no longer about me. It's a 2-strike count. This is for the team. This is my team strike to do something productive. And it's also that visual representation to the team of, hey, I'm changing my approach and digging deep for you guys. So it just keeps everybody connected, which gets really fun when they foul off like 8 in a row and you got like everybody in the dugout pounding it back and freaking out, right? But one thing that a lot of coaches struggle with is we do that, but when we practice 2-strike hitting in practice, we'll stand on the mound as coaches and we won't throw a ball until we watch them step out and do that. So you got to measure what you treasure. If you're going to do it in a game and expect it, then you have to expect it when you're practicing and doing those things too. So consistency. You've heard it all week, but making sure that you have that. And then the last thing I really want to touch on, I know we're running low here, so I'll be quick, but we have 11 key goals that we break down that determine wins and losses over 95% of the time. So we call them our squad goals. Okay, it's who scores first, who scores the most 2-out runs. Okay, big momentum shift, quality at bat differential, first pitch strike percentage, strikeout rate, and free bases. So those 6 things on offense and defense. And obviously there's no scoring first on defense. So that's where the odd number comes in of 11. Okay, we figured out in the last 3 years, if we win 6 out of those 11 goals, we've won 95% of the time. Okay, so now we go into games and we use that to help identify our team identity, right? So we know, hey, these first 10 games, we're killing it in free bases, but we're also striking out way more than we should be. So post-game, a lot of coaches kind of ramble. We go right down the list. Hey, fellas, here's why we did really well today. We knocked out 8 of the 11. We were great here. We still got to focus here. And then you can individualize that to player to get to their routine. So you look at a kid and you say, hey, your strikeout rate's kind of high, but you're doing a great job of getting free bases and really pushing and putting pressure on the other team. Let's focus there. Let's maximize those strengths and figure out how to put you in positions to be successful. And when you start to develop those, then players start to really buy in because they see their value. And when somebody is able to see their own value, you know how it is. You want to increase that value because you feel good about yourself. So I think there's a lot that we can do with it, but individually is important. But I think a big job as a coach is to systemize some of that, to take it out of their hands and show them what routine actually does look like.
Jake, I love the 11 goals for the squad goals. I think that's cool, and it allows us to have something tangible that we can always look back at. If you could put those in the chat just for some of the coaches in here that they can at least take home with them, and I want to put together like a blog or an email with that into everyone that we know, just because they need to know that. We all do. I want to use that. I want to print that out and just put my 11 squad goals and put it in my dugout. There's also another thing, the 4 periods in the game. So there's 3 periods of a game, especially in a 9-inning game. You got the first period, innings 1 through 3, second period 4 through 6, third period 7 through 9, and then there's the 0 period, our preparation period, the time before the game. and the importance of the zero period. And this correlates not only in the game, but in life. Like, how do we own our morning? Sean, we mentioned a little bit about the morning miracle, and how if you own your morning, you own your life. And that's just taking control of your life, your career, but it's also taking control of your team if we have a good zero period, like Jake was mentioning, in the cages, in our throw and catch play, and our individual defense. And like Jeannie said in there, like, what can we do to get our body ready and get that prep period? It's essential to success. So the 3 different periods, and then the zero period being the most important one, the time before the game. How do we prepare our mind and our body to get us in a good position to succeed? And I just wanted to add that in there because I think it's very important, and it goes right along with those squad goals of things that we can control. And no matter where we go, no matter what time it is, no matter what the weather is, we can control the zero period. We can control our squad goals for the most part, and they're tangible things that we can implement right away. Ronnie, what do you got for me?
Yeah, I got 2 things. It's kind of to sum up everything that you guys have said. The one thing that I took away from everything that you said was preparation. I know we talk about consistency and everything, but preparation is really key, especially for me. If I went into a practice and I didn't have a practice plan because I felt rushed before that day, practice really didn't go that well. And that happens sometimes, but for you guys, be as prepared as possible. Setting up a practice plan and having a template on a practice plan is huge, because then you can just implement and put in what you think that you need to work on for that day. When I used to coach, whether it was college or a travel program, we talked a lot about, what did we struggle with this weekend? And that was the focus of our practice during the week, because I'm not just going to have a template for them to go through just because. I'm going to make sure that we use real information that really happened to us. If we didn't throw enough strikes, well, then our pitchers are going to work on throwing strikes that week, whether it's from 46 feet, 50 feet, or 60 feet. I don't care. They're going to focus on throwing strikes. If pitchers were getting sore, I need to figure out the reason why they were getting sore that week. So I think using a weekend tournament, understanding where they struggled and preparing for that week is big. And then the second thing is the game within the game. I really like the squad goals. Whenever I coached, before I knew Jake, we used to do the TPI, the Team Process Index, from Coach Deemer and One Pitch Warrior. And every single time we had a game within a game, there was that line where if we were over that line, we won. If we were under that line, we lost. And they focus more on that than they do the actual things that are happening within the game. I think that if we can have the game within the game, that takes the pressure off of the big hit and the big moment. It takes the pressure off of throwing a strike and a 3-2 count with the bases loaded. I think if you focus on those types of goals, it sets it up for the players to focus more on themselves than anything else happening outside of their control, which I think is big. So that was my biggest takeaway from you guys for today.
I like that a lot, man. I think it's just finding things that we can be in control of. Baseball is a statistical game. Basketball, all the games we play are based off results, and a lot of us get caught up in the results. From a coaching standpoint, from a player standpoint, we want to win. We're competitors. We wouldn't be playing the game if we didn't want to win. If I didn't want to win, I'm not going to play a sport. Like, that's why I want to play. Even some of us who, my brother keeps trying to get me to play slow pitch softball. I'm like, I don't know if I want to go, because I'm going to want to crush them. Like, I'm going to kill them. There's a home run limit, man. If you're going to put a home run limit on me, I'm not playing. Like, I don't do those games. Come on. That's why I play tennis. I started to whack the tennis ball around. But I think it's very important, just our preparation. And it starts with the coaches. It starts with us. And I can think of so many times where I'm totally guilty of this, where I just rolled in and I didn't have a full practice plan, and kids are asking me, what are we doing for practice? What are we doing for practice? And in my mind, I'm like, I don't even know what we're doing for practice, but we're going to figure it out. I think having a clear plan before, it eliminates a lot of that confusion. It clears up the communication. It gets us all on the same page. And like Jake said, the squad goals, Ronnie, win the game within the game, just being able to focus from inning to inning, pitch to pitch, at bat to at bat, and simplifying the game for our athletes is huge. So once again, guys, thanks for tuning in on a Friday, like a Friday afternoon. Nobody had any, you didn't have to come here, right? There's no obligation to be here, but you chose to show up here, which is incredible. And it means the world to us. And your support has been incredible. Some of your guys' kids are in the Athletes One, which has been amazing. And we're just super grateful for you once again. Let's continue to crush it. Let's keep going into next week with some positive momentum. Have a great weekend. Enjoy it. Do something awesome with your family. Get out, play some tennis if you can. If you're up in New York, sorry about it. You got some snow still. I'm going to keep rubbing it in, Ronnie, until it gets hot here. But we're grateful for you guys. We're extremely blessed to be doing this. So thank you.
We're still going to get our work in, though.
Yeah, I'm tired of hearing it.
Yeah, I guarantee that. We're going to still get our work in.
Respect. Hey, blue collar baseball.
That's right. You got that right. We're tough up here, man.
You are. You got the mental edge, man.
That's right. Right.
We have one more thing to tell you that we all almost forgot, or one big ask from us. This is very brand new from the Dugout Coalition side, and we're like 3 weeks in quarantine really like got this thing going, which is awesome. But we are trying to expand social media and just expand that reach. So anything that you guys can do, what we'd really like is at some point this weekend, if you guys are on any social media, first of all, follow Dugout Coalition on Instagram and Facebook. That'd be awesome. But people don't know us, your players and your families know you guys. So anything that you can post about takeaways that you're getting from this, just tag Dugout Coalition in it. We're at like 906 Facebook followers, which is awesome for only being like 3 or 4 weeks in, but we'd love to see that push into 4 digits. So anything you guys can do to tag us in that, we would love it. It would be much appreciated. And, we'll probably have the kids do something similar next week, but wanted to at least say that before we forget about it. I'm finishing these squad goals of percentages, so my mind's all over in the chat right now too. I'm trying.
I respect it. Yeah, no, thanks. Any help sharing's amazing. Anything like that with your athletes, with your families, whoever it is. But thank you guys again for showing up. This is really cool. So we're not stopping. We got 3 weeks left, and next week, full uni Friday again. It's going to be cool. Maybe I'll wear the eye black this time and join the kids.
Beautiful.
See you guys. Have a good day.
We'll see y'all on Monday. Have a great weekend, y'all.
Later, y'all.